Nobody ever asks them, do you regret having lied to Oprah Winfrey? Do you regret having lied on Netflix? And all the magazine interviews, don't you see what a terrible mistake you've made?
Hi all, Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. I'm here with one of my favorite men in the entire world, Tom Bauer, author of Revenge and Betrayal. My Bibles, as you know, I tell you every time. I am so excited to spend some time with you today. It's been kind of quiet on the Harry and Meghan front, but not the royal front, huh?
Well, yes and no. I mean, in today's times, there's a big spread all about Meghan posing yet again in an invasion of her own privacy to promote herself and her brand. I mean, it's just quite extraordinary. Rear shots, her shots of her lying on the grass, yet more shots.
What was this one of her boobs and her vagina? I mean, can you imagine Catherine, the Princess of Wales, taking one of these? What was that picture?
Desperation.
Oh.
Desperate to get into newspapers.
Yes.
It's the whole Hollywood syndrome. What do I do to be noticed? And she's not being noticed. And it's really such fun to watch how low she goes, how high she goes, how in every direction just to get coverage. It's great fun.
Spiraling.
One way or the other.
Well, that's what. Well, I mean, I guess this is kind of right up this alley of this topic that I wanted to bring up to you. Author Catherine Mayer. Pretty dramatic comparison she's making in this new book she's written about royal women, where she says Meghan Markle's treatment by the monarchy has echoes of Anne Boleyn's fate. Anne Boleyn, accused of treason, incest, all the things, adultery, lost her head, literally decapitated. I mean, I'm going to ask you to respond to this, but I think my first instinct is, I think Meghan is suffering the consequences of her own actions. I don't think Anne Boleyn slept with her brother. You know what I mean?
Well, there's that, but also, you see, the whole point is Anne Boleyn lost her head. It was all part of a political problem. Mm-hmm. The king, having broken away from Rome, needed a son, and Anne Boleyn was in the way, and she was in the way in many other political ways. Meghan was never banished or anything. She banished herself.
Quit.
She only took the job, the marriage, to promote herself back in Hollywood as fast as she could return. Anne Boleyn wanted to be the queen. And there's anher difference. Yeah. Meghan wasn't the queen. Yeah. She was just a lowly duchess.
But she wanted to be the queen.
She wanted to be the queen. So the comparison is so pathetically stupid that, well, you know, some people will say anything just to get attention. And in that sense, Mayer has succeeded. She's got attention. But she gives feminism a bad name. That's the real problem. She does. And even Meghan, I don't think, deserves to be compared to Anne Boleyn, because, I mean, at least she was trying to be something more than just a third-rate actress.
Right.
Whereas Anne Boleyn was in the end a political force. She was someone rivaling the king. She wouldn't do what the king wanted, and the king was struggling. He needed to secure the Protestant succession. So the comparison is so foolish. It just doesn't take much to just dismiss it. But on the other hand, it does raise so many problems about, the writing about the royal family, who are in great trouble now. I mean, once again, it's the summer coming, and they've got problems. And, of course, Meghan and Harry have huge problems, which we might discuss.
I imagine we will. You and I have had the conversation before about how we're dealing with such sacred entities in the sense that these are historical figures. How responsible is it to compare Meghan Markle to basically a martyr figure? I mean, I do think we look at Anne Boleyn and we sympathize with her. We hurt for her, and we feel like she was unfairly treated. That's pretty... I don't sympathize with Meghan Markle. I mean, I know I've already said it to you, but she quit her job. She chose to pursue something else. She wanted to monetize the newfound fame she'd had because of the British royal family, and she exploits her connection to the British royal family. I don't see the similarities. Is that responsible when you're dealing with some of these sacred characters?
Well, I think, first of all, there's no such thing as responsibility in gutter journalism.
Okay.
But on the other hand, and seeking attention is not unusual by people who just can't otherwise invent an original story. But the point about Meghan is that she monetized herself by lying about the royal family and by damaging it deliberately with her lies to Oprah Winfrey on the Netflix series.
Right.
That was her great sin, that having entered the family, she then, to promote herself, did it huge harm and has never really recovered, except that she is now quite notorious. She is someone who just fills so many people with hate and anger for the damage that she's done just to promote herself. Whereas Anne Boleyn did nothing to promote herself in that sense. She was the victim of circumstance.
Right.
And that was not her fault at all, really. But I think that what we're really seeing at the moment is a frustration, because I think that the royal family is finding it hard to communicate what exactly they're trying to do. I think they're finding it, William is finding it hard. I think the king, he does great things, and not least in his address to Washington to Congress. But at the same time, he's having to find a way to justify the monarchy. And there's a gap. That is the great problem. His real existential problem is that he's got a government of Republicans who actually don't support the monarchy. And therefore, whenever he comes under attack, whether it's about the finances or about his own conduct or living expenses and things like that, he's got nobody who actually steps out from an authoritative figure in the establishment, like the prime minister or a minister, and says, no, we want a monarchy, we support the king. And so in the vacuum, you get this ridiculous sort of rubbish about Anne Boleyn, or you get Meghan parading herself on the grass in Montecito just to get another shot in a newspaper about increasing her desperation. And so the monarchy, as usual, has become a bit of a political football.
I was going to save this question for later, but based on what you just said, I wonder if we should hop, skip, and jump straight to this. King Charles reportedly weighing a potential unofficial part-time role for Prince Harry. Now, I've heard this debated by several people I admire in our business. They say that discussions have allegedly taken place between their teams focused on a managed coexistence that allows Harry to support specific causes while residing primarily in California, but developing a new HQ in the UK. He plans to spend more time in Britain maintaining his global humanitarian role. I'd do a hand gesture here, but this is a family show. Without rejoining the royal institution, but wanting their stamp of approval, his plans depend partly on the Home Office's decision over armed police protection, which could determine whether his children accompany him. You talk about how the king has, Republicans all around him. I know I kind of asked you about this before, but could there be some big strategy to bring Harry back? This Operation Thaw, I think, is what the Daily Mail calls it, in an attempt to sabotage the royal family, because in my opinion, Harry is completely destructive. Or do you not believe any of this at all? Do you not believe that the king would want Prince Harry to come back and to coexist?
Well, I think the latter. I don't think he wants Harry back. He can come if he wants, but he's not going to get armed protection. I think he's perilously close to the date now. It's in just 3 weeks, and you'd have to come back for the rehearsals in Invictus, which we've discussed, which is a great crisis point for him, because it's in Birmingham, which is a Muslim-dominated city, and Invictus has got a team from the Israeli army. So that's going to be a problem for him.
There could be a clash there you're concerned about.
Of course, there'll be more than a clash. There'll be real trouble. But of course, he's trying to leverage the Invictus Games, which the government has given money to, because after all, it's a very worthwhile cause for injured servicemen, with his own return with Meghan, who will use it to promote herself. So I don't believe the royal household, let alone the government, is going to give a free pass at public expense to Meghan to parade her clothes so she can sell them online. And so I think that all this stuff just comes out of Montecito to people who want to give him a fair hearing. But it's not going to in my view, it'll be complete folly to give Harry and Meghan a free pass here. And I don't think the king is that desperate to meet Archie and Lily, but that's what Harry would like to believe. I mean, the king has got other concerns. And as much as it's wonderful to be a grandfather, which I can attest to, I can also tell you that if your grandson, if your own son is causing you problems, you're not going to import even more problems. And Harry's presence in Britain is always a problem. That's the issue. Harry and Meghan and Harry are dynamite together if they'd be in Britain. So, this is now Harry trying to play the last roll of the dice. But
Is it blackmail?
well, it's emotional blackmail, but it's desperation, it's political. He's fighting it out on the airwaves, hoping that somehow. But I'm told very reliably that William is very, very, William won't have Harry. William is also very, very private. You see the odd snippet in the Sunday Times about him wanting to change the monarchy and that. But I can assure you, he's totally uncooperative with the media. You get what you see, and that's it. There's no secret briefings. And as far as the king goes, of course there are briefings, but I don't believe for a moment there are discussions between teams. I think they were really burnt by the last public example, which when, the photograph at the club on the veranda. There's no desire for more of that sort of stuff.
Right.
And in any case, who is the Harry team? He's fired everybody.
Everybody.
So you're not actually dealing with a substantial organization. What you're really seeing at the moment, and that's so fascinating, is a couple in California who are floundering all over the place. They need money. Publicity, they think, will get them money. They're given publicity because we want to see how it all ends. What more will she do?
Well, there was this one. So
Yeah.
we already got the Canadian tuxedo shot.
What more will she do to get? And what more can Harry do? Because he's down now to one charity. That's it now, once every 2 years. And he's also being sued by the Senator Bailey people for defamation. He's waiting for his Daily Mail case to be resolved, and that's really very, very exciting because that'll probably come within a very short time.
I guess we are just kind of sitting around waiting for
We're waiting for an explosion.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean. And in that explosion, the idea that they'd actually then give him armed protection to visit Britain when he's going to become so controversial yet again is nonsense.
But also, don't you believe, because this has been my argument, that realistically, if he contacted the Ravik offices the way it is right now, 28 days notice, itinerary, we determine on a case-by-case basis exactly what you need. If the man says, my wife and children will be accompanying me, don't you believe that Ravik would be like, yes, you will have armed guards? I just think that they might push back on perpetual armed guards for every visit, but on the case-by-case basis, as it is now, I think he would get the security he wants if he brought his wife and children over. I think it's insane for him to argue it's not safe enough when the likelihood that they would provide armed guards for Meghan and the children is, in my opinion, incredibly high. Do you disagree with that?
I do.
Oh.
Because the way that is calculated is there a threat?
Right.
And there's no threat to Meghan or her children. They've never shown a threat. The only threat has been that they'll be photographed by paparazzi, which is, of course, what they want.
Well, which is what Meghan does 24 hours a day in the house.
Exactly. and summons people to spot her at a restaurant or somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think, on the contrary, I think they won't allow them to abuse the system. And, of course, the reason they want the armed protection is, first of all, it saves them a huge amount of money because if they actually did come, they'd need at least a team of 6, which would cost a fortune. And on top of that, they want the status.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. They want to be treated as royals. And that is the one thing they were told you can't do. You can't be inside or outside, just choose. So I think if Ravik decided to give them a royal protection, that would be a terrible, terrible mistake. And I think at the moment the British public would find that ridiculous when there's so many other reasons to spend money. I mean in the end, you see, is there a threat against them? And he has never proven that there is a threat. And the ridiculous car chase in New York was all, as I showed in my book,
smoke and mirrors,
completely bogus. And the only other time he's ever said he was in danger was, I think,
a fan, yes. A fan.
Exactly. So,
it has pictures of him and Meghan on the internet, yeah.
There's only a motive if he promotes himself. And after all, he's the man who said he killed 25 Taliban. which he didn't have to do. He's the man who boasted he killed. He doesn't know if he was 25 or 30 and how many innocents died too. So what does he want? He brings it on himself and then says, now protect me.
Well, and from a not so serious standpoint, you have Meghan posting $30,000, $15,000 necklaces on Instagram. You can shop her closet if you go to her AI app. You know, she posts different parts of the house where you can see the security camera in the back of I mean, she also, if you want to argue that you're at risk security-wise, shouldn't you be taking steps at home to not be sharing so much information online yourselves?
Well, absolutely. But I mean, that's the whole point about the invasion of privacy. I mean, self-invasion.
Yeah.
So I think the real interest is how low can they go and when will it all explode or implode?
Yeah.
And that's really why I'm fascinated by it, because I think that, the manipulation of the media by them,
Yes.
by the constant drip of we've got to be recognized, we want people to write about us, but we don't want it to be our privacy to be invaded, is just priceless. And they are the victims of their own dishonesty. That is what is so fascinating. And do they realize it?
Yeah.
And the fact they don't give interviews to any other than people who they cultivate and control if they can. Nobody ever asks them, do you regret having lied to Oprah Winfrey? Do you regret having lied on Netflix and all the magazine interviews? Don't you see what a terrible mistake you've made? And are you prepared to apologize? Oof. That, I think, is what we're waiting to hear.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I was with some fans of the royal family, supporters of the royal family earlier this week at Buckingham Palace, they did say, I don't want Harry back, but if I had to take him back, he would need to apologize to his family publicly, and he would have to apologize to the United Kingdom. Can you see a world where he is humble enough to do that?
No, I can't, because I think he's too stupid to do it. I think that to actually calculate, I've got to eat humble pie, I've got to admit it's been a mistake, demands intelligence, it demands courage, it demands also self-awareness. Would it be an honest apology or would it be an opportunist apology?
Right.
I mean, that is an essential point. And I think on both things he can't imagine it. And I don't want an apology from her too. I don't think she can. And, I think there's a time, as we've discussed, there's a time bomb ticking. Once the king departs, I think the new king, I mean Prince William, he wants to slim down and clean up the monarchy. He's talking about a modern monarchy. Well, a modern monarchy can't include Prince Archie, Princess Lilibet. They've got to remove the titles. They've got to constrain it, and that really is what Harry rightly fears, that he will just be Mr. Harry Windsor.
And if he really felt the way he says he felt about his family, that this is this older institution, he compares his father and brother's life to being in jail or trapped in a cage when he talked to Oprah Winfrey, then why would you set your child up for that by insisting they have a title? Exactly. And then I'm sorry to keep going back to the digital stuff, but you mentioned it's in the Times today, I read an interesting article in Newsweek last week about how she's developing this digital footprint for her children that they have no control over. They're just going to inherit the world knowing all of these details about them. Doesn't that completely contradict what Harry and Meghan said when they gave birth to Archie? That,
well, of course.
They said, we're not going to offer him up on a silver platter. Exactly.
That is one of their many sins of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
But also, it's quite interesting, it's always Lilibet that features, not Archie.
Well, even in the picture she posted of Harry playing soccer with Archie, he's wearing a shirt that says Girl Dad. And
she is obsessed by feminism. She's obsessed by the girly voice. I mean, that is really one of her. It probably attracts some support.
Yeah.
But I know clearly, the outspoken Duchess. She's not. She has nothing to say.
Nothing.
She might be outspoken, but it's a vacuum.
Yeah.
There's worthless words that come out in her outspokenness.
Rodney King is like, please stop. Please leave my name out of your mouth. Stop using me in your origin story. Yeah, I do think that it's like, we talk about the hypocrisy, the contradiction. It's just never ending because she is branding herself on social media as the trad wife. She developed an entire show where she's in someone else's kitchen, but that is not the definition of feminism.
Well, I agree, but more to the point, how can you be a feminist and you only become famous because of who you marry
Oh, yeah.
and not what you achieved yourself?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a complete contradiction
yeah.
of feminism.
Right.
And that, I think, is what's so ridiculous about any of these comparisons with historic figures in Britain, because in the end, she is a bad advert for feminism.
Right.
Look who I've married to become famous,
Right.
not what I've done. And, you know, I think there's so much which is indicative of what has gone wrong in our society over the last years in the life of Harry and Meghan.
That timeline.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that makes it even more fascinating.
It does. Well, I mean, immediately when you say that, I think of Meghan squatting outside. She's recording herself. I think she's giving a speech for her high school in California. And it's supposed to be a graduation speech, like, because she's just married a prince. Now, yes, she's fled to the United States, but she's made her dreams come true. And I'm sure when the school wrote her and said, will you give our graduation speech? Everything was digital at the time, I believe, because of COVID. I'm sure that they thought they were going to get this uplifting, energized speech about how you can accomplish all of your goals. You can dream big. And what they got was Meghan Markle crouched down talking about how she felt guilty because of because George Floyd died. And then it's like she hijacks these trending events to try to make herself relevant without finding any solutions to the problem that she's using as a pedestal for her own relevance.
Well, it's like when she went down to the scene of the Texas massacre to lay the flowers on the very day that her father, not so far away, had had a stroke, and she ignored her father. I mean, everything is about her. I mean, we know that. She's a narcissist.
Yeah.
And that's why, another reason I hope, that the British don't allow her back under the circumstances she wants. She's free to come and go.
Yeah.
And after all, that's fair enough. But, I mean, the problem really is she uses every opportunity to talk about herself, but she has nothing more to say than, look at me.
I was really surprised in Betrayal that you found charity organizers that were willing to complain about that were willing to say, we brought her on board with the understanding that she was going to elevate our cause. But unfortunately, she flipped the script and spoke entirely about herself instead of focusing on the good we're trying to do here. What does that say to you as an investigative journalist? Because I know you heard a lot of people tell you no, that somebody said, yeah, I'm going to go on record with this.
Well, that's what's so fascinating. It starts with the book Betrayal,
Yeah.
her appearance in Manchester. And it was anger that provoked her. The organizers of that conference for children were absolutely outraged by Meghan's behavior. They'd been outraged before how she had exploited and used them, but that was the lost. And of course, that was a bombshell, that in the book, the exposure of their anger. And of course, the anger has been replicated many times since. I mean, in Colombia, the vice president who invited her, which is described in the book, was angry too, because she expected the Sussexes to leave a large sum of money for charity, and they left, I think, something like $7,000 or $8,000.
Yeah.
I mean, pathetic for a drum set.
I mean, Meghan's literally wearing like a $7,000 shirt in one of her latest AI posts about Shop My Closet. I couldn't believe that she would wear such expensive clothes.
And always in front of impoverished
Yeah.
victims of terrible violence, totally tone deaf. They did the same in their Nigerian tour. I think they gave $11,000 to some charity, and of course promised that the Invictus Games would be in Nigeria, and they went, and that really annoyed the organisers. So they're not invited to any more royal tours. I mean, the Australian tour was not a success either. It's interesting how that has suddenly disappeared. And so they're always looking, but in the end, they had neither of them have nothing to say other than look at me, the victim.
Right.
And that's Harry's stick the whole time. And people are bored to death with it.
But aren't you seeing a pivot with Harry when Ukraine? challenging Putin, challenging President Trump. Even the piece he recently wrote about, the Jewish community being under siege here. I do think that Harry is trying to change that. I think Meghan is completely oblivious. But and if you disagree, say it.
Well, I
That's
do
fine.
disagree, because I think Harry, when he mentioned the plight of the Jewish community in Britain, and it is serious, obviously, from the Islamic groups here and even Muslim groups, forgot to mention that it all started with the terrible murders of 1,200 Jews in Israel on October the 7th, 2023. Why did he forget that? Because he didn't want to insult the Muslim groups. But why did he write the piece? I'll tell you exactly why. Because in my book, I show how he went to Jordan as a guest of a very, very prejudiced World Health Organization to visit the Palestinians, but didn't want to cross the border into Israel to visit the victims of Hamas.
Right.
And that showed, in my view, and still does, that they are very prejudiced, and especially Meghan, in favor of the Palestinian cause.
Wow.
I mean, she is someone who does identify with the Palestinian cause. And the whole question is, does she actually acknowledge the existence of Israel? And I have my doubts about Meghan on that. I think on Harry, he doesn't understand what he's doing, and he's worried by the optics. But he has a problem. Obviously, in Birmingham, he's got a problem now, not of his own making, but unfortunately Britain's making. And he hasn't got advisors around him who can help him to navigate what he's going to do in Birmingham. So when he writes a piece like that for the New Statesman, which was a really odd piece, it was really unusual. Why publish it? Well, it was because it was answer to my book and my criticism of him, and trying to somehow sort himself out vis-a-vis Israel. But by failing to mention the attacks on October the 7th, he exposed both his own prejudice and his own ignorance, because you can't mention the plight of Israel without mentioning that date and why the war started and why it continues.
And to your point, when you talk about your instinct when it comes to Meghan, I also think that the records indicate, based on who Archwell has donated to, it's out there for anyone to investigate and see themselves, that they do tend to contribute to certain organizations that aren't necessarily friendly to the Jewish community. I mean, Paula Froelich wrote about that in News Nation. Several people have made that observation. So I just want to say, in case the attorneys are watching, there is plenty of documentation to back up what you're suggesting. You've spent some time at the Invictus Games. You've sat in the stands. Can you talk to me about that environment?
Well, I went to Vancouver to the last Invictus Games, thinking this is a great organization, but what really happens? And it is vast. I mean, it's very expensive. Vancouver hosted it in a huge convention center. But I was actually appalled by the following. First of all, there were over 2,000 helpers, all dressed in yellow. The number of spectators was tiny.
Yeah.
Secondly, there are 500 competitors, but about 1,500 members of their families. So all paid for by the governments.
Wow.
So free food, free accommodation. For those 500, it's terrific.
Right.
But what I really found, I suppose I'd say bogus, is that in the wheelchair competition, which I watched, between America and Nigeria, the American team were professional coach team. And they all wheeled themselves onto the court, as did the Nigerians. None of the Americans had a physical disability. They all had all their limbs. They beat the Nigerians 24-0 because they were a professionally coached team. And then they wheeled themselves off into an adjoining area. Now, the 100 spectators in the 2,000 spectator auditorium didn't see what happened next, which I did. I looked over, and they all got up and walk away.
That is ridiculous.
And the image you have of Invictus is of soldiers.
Perseverance,
and soldiers without limbs. And what was interesting was not only the American team, I think out of the 24, had one limbless, one soldier who didn't have a leg. But I mean, on the whole, I didn't see them play with that soldier. But even in the parade, only about 4%, 5% of the whole participants, 500, had really serious injuries. There was one Italian who'd been lost his legs in an explosion in the Balkans.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't what it seems.
Right.
But what it is was Meghan's show.
Ugh.
And that is what's so extraordinary. They start off Invictus with a hugely popular pop show.
Which is expensive, by the way.
Well, it was Katy Perry.
Yeah.
I mean, it was vast.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of money because the auditorium, the stadium was full for her. And of course, Harry gets up and Meghan immediately gets up and gives him a kiss in front of the cameras because it's Meghan's show.
Mm-hmm.
What is Meghan going to do? Well, on that occasion, they went up then to Whistler and she then disappeared because she had a crisis over her copyright of her products.
American Riviera Orchard.
Exactly. And nobody covered the games anymore.
Oh.
It was all over.
Right.
Because people only came, the media, to see how Meghan...
She must love that power, Tom.
She loved milking it.
She loves that
And she,
power.
in constant posting of Instagram videos of her with soldiers, her with children.
Oh, but
her with her
there's the
family.
video of them in the car and like everybody's cheering them
Look,
on.
they get everyone to come out into the tunnel for them.
Oh,
And I think that's
you're not a hero, Meghan.
exactly. But she is going to try and do the same, of course, in Birmingham.
So
she
you do
needs
think
it.
she's coming? You do?
Well, I
think
think she desperately wants to come.
Yeah.
But they've set the bar at this protection thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to get it.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be her problem. That the Invictus Games is ignored when it's not the Meghan show. So it's quite interesting.
It is a lot for us to watch out for. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about King Charles personally paying for Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie's palace rent. It's none of my business. It's none of my business. But I do think that Harry and Meghan must loathe the idea that the king is paying for his cousins to live in royal homes.
Well, it's paying for his nieces. But I think the point that it is very important about the royal finance is this. Britain has got some amazing heritage palaces, castles and everything in which the royal family live. If they didn't live there, who would?
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, they've got to be occupied. And,
I would love to live there.
well, my love, you should have married a prince or even a duke. Or perhaps you can find a lord.
I'll take anyone.
You'll take anyone to live in a castle in a pile. But, I mean, that is the issue, you see. And I think it is classic in this sort of debate that because the king has subsidized Eugenie and Beatrice's, that somehow it's a scandal. Well, you know, they are tainted by their parents' appalling behavior.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they are his relatives. The rooms are empty. You know, there's no insult letting them live there for a lower rent.
Yeah.
And the other point about the palaces is that they're given to working royals. And the point about whether it's Sophie and Edward or whoever it is that if they work to earn money, they're immediately criticised for exploiting their royal connections. If they don't work, they say, well, they should pay for their accommodation.
Right.
They can't win either way. And someone should live in those wonderful houses.
Yes.
And the most important point is, if you are a monarchist, as I am and you are too, then we believe that the monarchy should get something in return and should occupy these buildings because we believe that somehow they represent the values and do the work in opening hospitals or whatever that we want. So they paid in kind rather than in cash. So I think that this financial thing is bogus. It's an issue raised by Republicans just to damage the royal family.
What's the biggest thing on your radar right now? We've talked about the immigration papers, the Daily Mail decision could come at any moment. The Ravik decision could come at any moment. I don't think an arrest for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is on the horizon anytime soon, if at all. If you are the comms department of Buckingham Palace or King Charles's team, what are you preparing for crisis management wise?
Well, I think the biggest, as far as Harry is concerned, the biggest will be the judgment on his allegations against the Daily Mail. And since there's no doubt he lied under oath in his case, he's going to create it. It's going to be a storm.
Just to clarify, because the attorneys are watching, there was proof presented at the end of the trial from Charlotte Griffiths that she did have a personal relationship with Prince Harry that contradicted his testimony.
Right. And so I think that is a great problem for him and for the palace. And that's why everything regarding Harry is on freeze till this huge controversy is settled by the judge. That is the first issue. The other issue is, of course, Andrew is a problem, a huge problem. And there's also the King's health, we forget. And, you know, they can't travel as much. And I think there is a problem with William still again, because if he leaks to newspapers he wants a modern monarchy, then Charles automatically becomes worried. How will he tamper with the mystery and history of this great 1,000-year-old monarchy? What will he do to damage it? Does he understand what the consequences are? So it is a constant process of survival and modernization, but to what degree, and also personal relationships, and of a royal family getting old. You know, there are very, very few working royals. So it is a problem.
And how low will Meghan Markle go? How low will she go is what we are watching for. Betrayal, revenge, two of my favorite books in the entire world. You're working on a new book about Nigel Farage that I cannot wait to dive into. And thank you for spending some time with me. I absolutely adore you. I appreciate everything you do. And I'm always going to call you when I'm in town.
Thanks very much. Love you too.
All right. Well, agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. And head to your local bookstore or Amazon to buy a book by Tom Bauer. Please support my friends. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.